And so anyway, my name's Ken Flowers. I'm the Dean of Career and Workforce Education here at Lake Michigan College. One of the reason for us putting this together is I'm also part of the Trends Conference Committee. And when we've been meeting, one of the things that came up was, scheduling roundtables. Roundtables are part of the Trends Conference since its inception. And what it allows faculty to do is get together, talk about best practices, talk about other things that they're doing. And Curtis LaHaye, who's on our meeting fees from Macomb, he's on the committee. He's like, well, right now, speaking of trends, we have a tentative right now. We're looking at having a virtual conference. And we'll talk about that more at the end. In February the 19th and 26th, a couple of half days there. But Curtis from automotive faculty at Macomb is like, we can't wait. We need to know what people are doing now. So if there's some great things that the best practices that people are doing, we can implement those in the spring semester if possible, or just do some additional things. That's kind of what we're here today to talk about is, some of those things. But before we do, I'd kind of like to go through some introduction. So now what I'll do is make it kind of quick. I'll just call your name, just kind of let me know who you are, what you do, and we'll just kind of work from there. So we'll start with Bo.
So I'm Bo Everett. I work at Oakland Community College. I'm on the Auburn Hills campus. We have 5 campuses. So I run the machine tool program there. I'm a faculty, but I'm also the student learning coordinator, program director, and the list goes on because I'm a faculty, or I'm a department of 1. So I have to do pretty much everything. So, but that's me.
Great. Mr. Kreitner.
Unmute. Kevin Krittner, Lake Michigan College, department chair, machine tool, advanced manufacturing instructor, other duties as assigned.
Harvey.
Yeah, Harvey Schneider, as it says up here, Delta College. They provided me with these nice little backdrops, so I feel compelled to use them. I am the skilled trades manager, and most of the apprentices, I would say, come from manufacturing. So I have an interest in this group. We're doing okay with our classes right now, but I'm hoping you guys can give me some insight and into what we could do better.
Great, thanks Harvey. Larry.
Yeah, my name is Larry Fucciarelli. I'm a part-time faculty at Wayne County Community College.
Mark.
Well, thanks very much. I'm Mark Bannatyne. I am the Dean of Technology at Mott Community College here in Flint. This is my very first semester in that position, and I've gotten thrown in at the deep end. So I've got lots of questions for all of you.
Great. Jolene.
Good afternoon. My name is Jolene Chapman, and I'm the Dean of Engineering, Manufacturing, and Industrial Technologies at Oakland Community College, and I get to work with Bo Everett.
So, well, thank you, and thank you all for participating. We had 2 roundtables earlier today. We had mechatronics around welding. I facilitated the welding. It was lots of great information, hearing from individuals are doing across the state. And so that's kind of what I want to kick off with, is asking individuals and kind of speaking to how has the pandemic impacted, obviously it impacted everyone, but how has it impacted you? What kind of new things have you done to grow, to continue to teach your curriculum at a different style? And then what do you see it changing? So say, for example, are there things that you potentially aren't going to go back to because you found a new or better way to do it? So I'm going to start with Mr. Kreitner. Can you kind of give us some insight? Kind of start from March and work forward.
From March we started, and it was like everybody. We got this is just a big cluster of whatever happened. It's just we started making videos, and with the videos, it really started turning out with just a laptop and a desktop dot camera. And I started doing videos of our basic programming on our conversational machine. So as I went through that, I went through all the programs, and with those programs, I started posting them. I just tried to keep a week ahead of the students on what they should be doing in the lab in the classroom setting, but we just turned it virtual. So then as I made those videos, each one would have questions and answers. So then the following week, I'd make more videos and questions and answers, and so on and so forth. So the nice thing about this term was we've already had the second half already prepped and ready to go. The nice thing about it was because I was going to say, Dr. Flowers, Ken mentioned, can we stick with stuff that we made? Well, yes, I found out, which was very nice, and is actually the very first videos I made were with the programming. The students all go out with their smartphones and they'll actually watch the video as I'm going through the program, and then they just follow suit and they'll do the program right on the machine. And the first time that happened, because I came from a high school setting 10 years ago, I thought the students were just goofing around watching YouTube videos. And I'm like, what are you doing? You should be focusing on your actual classwork. They're like, I am. I'm watching your video, and then as you go through the lesson, I'm actually putting it onto the controller. So that turned into a nice surprise from going through all the heartaches that we've gone through. And then it just kind of stemmed from there. We just keep adding videos. I'm doing Zoom stuff with our blueprint reading and sketching class now. I've made videos for a GD&T class, so I help a lot of our other instructors out. The instructors that struggle with this stuff, I'll help them make videos. I help them get their videos posted out there. And it's just moved us in a different direction for that. We've also have it with our document camera where you can share stuff. So I did that same thing with our basic cam software, is I'd share my screen, and I don't do it all in one big go. You got to realize we got to keep stuff short. I hate anything longer than 5 minutes, but most of them are around 5 to 10 minutes. And if it's over that, I'll stop it and I'll break it up into 2 parts. And you just break your teaching into mini segments. So then as the students watch the video, they'll either have questions now because they can't actually get in to use the software, or they'll actually watch what I show them and then apply it right on the machine. So for the second half, it's been a nice surprise with all the extra videos that we've made on our actual equipment, actual software, actually how I wanted to do it. I can see me using that for a long time now. It's just taken me another direction in my time that I've been as instructor. Is there anything else that I missed, Ken? I'm like,
Well, let's kind of slow down a little bit and talk about, so you basically take a desk camera with a laptop out to the machine and then kind of describe that process.
I take it out right in front of the controller. So this is the easiest way. Think of if you're standing at a gas station pump and you're poking in your code or whatever in it to do that. Well, we're standing in front of the CNC controller, but instead of me standing right next to a student, I'm standing right next to a document camera facing that controller. So they don't really see me, but they hear me and they can see my keystrokes with my hand. So as I'm going through it, I'll take the print, I put the print in front of the camera, and it sounds old school, but I have colored pencils where I mark the print up on certain things that I want them to actually look at. So as I'm going through it, I go step by step on the program. I have the print in front of me and walking them through it. And then as we continue to go through, I ask students, I'm like, well, how's it go? Is it different? And the ones that I've had before in prior classes, they tell me it's just like you standing right next to me in class. So instead of me doing it all individually in class, because that's usually how it ends up, because everybody's at a different spot, the students can move at their own rate on the controllers or at the computers if they're doing the programming stuff. I did the same thing for the machine tool stuff. So for the hands-on training, it was just points what they should have been picking up through the class. One of them was single pointing a thread on a lathe. Another one was knurling. It's just basic setup techniques that I put together. We had a GoPro on my head, and it took a little bit of time to figure it out. Those of you that do use a GoPro, don't turn your head fast because it's going to make somebody sick watching it. Because after I make the videos, you come in, you view them. As I view them, I make questions based on the video that I put together. So that's just a gauge for me to know that they're watching it. That's the biggest thing. It wasn't to punish them, because when they actually do the questions, I'll go back, and if they get it wrong, I'll say, hey, rewatch the video here, focus in on this point of it. And it doesn't take me long to grade them. It only takes 5-10 minutes for them to watch them, but it's also providing us with another resource for the students to actually view later. And then I open them up for this term. And if students want to go back and watch it, they can watch it, because when I do it in class, I've got 10 students now versus our normal 16 students. I'm going at the speed of light, showing them and explaining it to them one-on-one. In the video situation, they can watch it at their own pace. So that's been a blessing for us to go at that route. But I just did all a bunch of different videos, because I thought the stuff, no, I didn't think, I know the stuff that I was seeing on YouTube. If any of you did YouTube videos and it was great, hey, I apologize. I just thought they're all garbage. They weren't technical enough and not teaching enough points to where it goes step by step methodically through every individual point that I want them to cover. Most of the stuff you see on YouTube is just by somebody doing it in their garage, and it just, to me, wasn't at the teaching level that it needs to be for education. And then we also enrolled, we have our Tooling U, but for Lake Michigan College, we're really big into Tooling U. I remember when I started 10 years ago, Ken told me, hey, this place keeps reaching out to us. So I started looking into the Tooling U part of it. Then, and I'm like, man, this could be a good avenue to go, so we don't have to have a regular textbook. It grades it. But my biggest thing for the Tooling U was, back then, it started collecting data for us. And that's a big key. How are the students doing? Where are they excelling? Where are they not doing well? So it went from machine tool, then we projected it into welding and our hydraulics, and we have it in some of our electrical classes. We have it in a ton of different classes down here, but that's been a blessing for us too, because now when we're not doing face-to-face, okay, focus on your Tooling U assignments. It gives us a little bit of a buffer so we don't have to strain and stress so much of the videos. Work on your Tooling U, let me get some more videos set up for you to work on. But it was lots of hands-on demo type stuff that we built from scratch. I have yet to find a canned curriculum that I feel is at the caliber that it needs to be to teach students. So our Tooling U is a supplement. All the other stuff is things that I pick up through the years from teaching, and it is good teachers rob from other teachers. So if I see something you're doing great, I show it. I can point out in one of the videos that I do, I stole that from Ken Flowers, because I remember watching him teach it to somebody one time. And I'm like, I'm going to use that from the rest of the time. And it's probably been 11 years since I've been using that now. So that's kind of how it stemmed from there. Is there anything else that I might have missed, Ken? Because it's been a whirlwind for the last 9 months.
What questions do you have for Mr. Krittner?
So I have one about the Tooling U. It's one of the last things you touched on, and I can add some things when it's my turn too. But with the Tooling U, we went to that when we went in March, and you said you went to it even before that. Are you making the students pay for that, whatever that is, $90 or whatever? Are they paying for that every semester?
Ours, we have it set up here. When we set it up, we consider it like their textbook. But the nice thing about Tooling U is we use it in welding, we use it in machine tool, we use it in hydraulics, we use it in some electrical classes. We use it in a lot of different areas. They buy a subscription, whether they choose to get it through the bookstore or they can get the subscription directly online from Tooling U. But Ken set that up through Tooling U to get us a price rate that we would tell them that we'd have X amount of students. The best thing about that is, because I think our low one is $116 or $113 per term, but the nice thing is they can use that subscription for every class that has Tooling U involved with it. So right. As our marketing point is, hey, you buy it, but it's good for machine tool, it's good for welding, it's good for hydraulics, it's good for this electrical class. And if they want to front load the system and get ahead of the game, I'm the administrator, I can dump all those classes onto their account. So students that might be struggling with a budget, hey, if you want to get it all done in one term, by all means, get it all done in one term. So that's how we use the Tooling U. And we've been using it. This is what, my 10th year here. We've been using it for 9 years, I think now.
Okay.
We were using it, and I didn't like the pricing the students were getting charged in the bookstore. And so I contacted Tooling U and signed a contract with them that if we sold this many seats, they'd give us a reduced rate. But we had to sign a 4-year, so not just rolls over now. But that was something that we did a long time ago. but it has been a blessing. One of the things we saw a long time ago is you move the curriculum online, the students can do some of the, kind of alleviates the lecture that faculty have to do. They can spend more time in the lab. The students, and it's been great because the student will come to you and say, well, hey, I don't understand this. And well, did you watch your Tooling U? Well, yeah, and you can look, well, you only watch it for 3 minutes.
Right.
Or you, you watched it at 2:00 in the morning on Saturday for 20, those are the kind of things that we can come back with. So we can really see if they're spending the right amount of, good amount of time on it. So
I had an actual employer reach out to me in an email, probably not less than 30 minutes ago, asking me how one of his apprentices is doing. Hey, is he getting his work done? I pulled it up online, looked at it. I'm like, yep, his Tooling U looks good. Now let's get him focused on the other assignments that he should be doing, the videos that I mentioned earlier. So it's nice to get that snapshot real quick that we can pull up and look at. That's what's nice about the Tooling U. But this end, we've been doing it for a long time now. We're a heavy player here from Southwest Michigan with it.
Any other questions for Mr. Kurtner? So Bo, let's tell us what you're doing.
Ken, can you allow me to share my screen? I think
Sure.
it'd be easier to do that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Oops, I clicked the wrong button. There you go.
So to kind of tag in with what Kevin is doing, so we use D2L as our learning management software. Some people use Blackboard, all that kind of stuff. But what I did so this is my intro to CNC class. And then over here are all the modules. I just haven't broken down into sessions, but in almost every class, I started doing videos and putting them together, kind of like Kevin did, where it's hitting different points. So like right now, I have this "How do I" section, and I just broke it down, and some of them are PowerPoint presentations where I put like their first part on there, and then we walk through it, right, step by step, how you put points on there. When you're on a lathe, you start out a little bit, then work into it. Should be a turn first, and you have to end with a face, all that kind of stuff. So I put it all on there, but I did basically the same thing that Kevin's doing, and I've done it for a lot of my different every class really. And I had the same thing to say really as Kevin is. It's been a giant pain in the ass to do it, no doubt about it, but it's working because the students can go back and look at it, and it's the same thing. They're looking at, why are you on your phone? What are you looking at? And you actually look at their screen and they're watching me. So which is a cool thing. And sometimes they go down that rabbit hole and they find different things to look at. But that's exactly what I personally think that they should be doing anyways, is looking for those pieces of information that are going to help them. So but that's what I do. I created, like I said, in just about every class, I have this little section up here. So it's real quick to the point, individual things. So like even with the CAM classes and such, so we use Fusion 360, and that's a whole deep thing that they can get into by themselves online if they want. But how do you do a setup? 2-minute video, here you go. How do you set up stock? How do you decide how much stock you have? Little video. Right. And I just keep pumping those little videos. And what's happening now, because like all of us, we're all on in remote settings. So they get those questions. Well, I am not going to, because I don't want to look at myself on a computer screen for that long. I am not lecturing to them for that long. I'm not using that whole 3-hour section for me to just yap at them. I'm not doing that. So I give them the basics of what they need. I'll go through a little demo with them, and then I have those videos, and I just tell them which videos to look at when they get stuck. So it's been great for me in that respect. So I don't know,
any questions for Bob? Larry, tell us what you're doing.
Well, we're trying to teach welding online, and you just can't do it. Yeah, I'm perfectly honest with you. You got to look in the mirror and say, am I doing justice? You're not. I taught there 17 years. I got, I got 27 years automotive prototype, and there's no way you're going to take and walk somebody through welding without touching the equipment. I hate to say it, I don't be a naysayer, but you can do some things and safety and things like that. But at the end, how would you like to compete with somebody? Say, oh yeah, I'm going to teach welding online. And I'll say, okay, well, I'll challenge you and I'll take them to the lab. Who's going to produce the better welder, me or them?
No, that's a great point, Larry. I think I don't think anyone's assuming whether it be machine tool, CNC welding.
CNC is a little different because you can probably maybe get the software online and then learn a little bit of software and some commands and stuff. Where welding, it takes muscle memory and you name it, judgment and time to mess up and weld. We have an hour lecture. That's the way our program is set up. Our lecture, it's a 5-hour class. But do I use the whole hour? No, I might lecture for 15 minutes. And why? I'll tell you why. Because they're not going to retain anything after 15 minutes. So we go out to the lab. I'll break it down after that. And then we go lecture for another 10 minutes. We weld for another hour. I see problems. We whistle it down again and we talk about it. So my lectures are really throughout the day and I'm student feeding. How are they going to remember anything, travel speed and everything online and then take them to the lab? We've already tried that because we opened up the lab here a couple weeks ago and we brought the students in. It wasn't anything different than the first day. You know what I mean? So welding's, I just, I feel bad for the students that are just not getting that training. And job placement, I'll tell you right now, if anybody needs, or if any instructors are looking for job placements, I've got them. Got a ton of them. I can't even fill them. That's how much jobs I got right now for some welders.
Yeah, I know some of our concern too is, the ability to train. We've had to minimize our lab numbers. And so
that's trure.
So that's one of the things too, is you need to minimize your lab numbers. But yeah, that a huge concern. I mean, I've heard our leadership say that, hey, if you think, if we get to a point where we think that we're just going to be shut down for a couple of months in this winter, we could potentially not offer any of those lab courses. I mean,
what do you do? I know the problem is that the government funding. I know they're getting some government funding maybe for even attempting to run a class, and I get it. But my stomach is like for the students. I want to see them get jobs and to train them. Do you think I'm going to send them to an employer that knows me and say, hey, I got a good one for you? It's not going to happen, man. Right. But getting back to that, we use Google Classroom, and somebody was talking about cutting back, and I know this is infringement, but we post the book online, and we let the students do the homework, and they don't have to purchase the book. I know you might say, hey, well, you get in trouble for it, but that's what we're doing. I mean, because the books are expensive, a couple $100.
Let me tell you something, Larry. Let me tell you something. I don't see anything wrong with some of that. That we had a terrible problem in one of our classes. We went to a previously a published book that had been updated by a new version. We got the permission from the publisher.
Oh, really?
You bet we did, to post it online, and then we supplemented what wasn't in that text with other stuff. I tell my faculty, you got to take the country doctor approach in a situation like this. You work with what you've got. And you know what? All the old rules are gone, and we have to come up with the new rules, and we're the ones that have to make them, because this is not a normal situation.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think to tell you honest truth, I don't think there's one thing wrong that you did. I really don't.
So let me kind of talk to you a little bit, Harvey. What are you guys doing at Delta? I know that you're not faculty, but what are you guys doing at Delta?
Well, basically it's a scramble, and it started last March. And it's especially tough. We talked this morning about our welding classes, machining, manufacturing classes we're all in the same boat. We did not have a good plan to teach any of that stuff online. So most of the students got incompletes, and we, tried to get them caught up this summer. Was really tough for us. I know Keith Proctor didn't talk about it for this morning in the welding roundtable, but we already had a contract to remodel our welding lab over the summer, thinking that students would be off. So we actually had to rent classroom in welding lab classroom at the Bay Aranac Career Center and have our Delta students show up over there to complete their welding classes. And I know Terry Morris is not on here. He is our CNC machining coordinator. And I know Terry scrambled just as hard to try and get students caught up from last winter. Luckily, we don't offer very many machining classes spring, summer, almost none at all. So, but then going into the fall, we adopted the stance that they're letting us come back face to face for now. We don't know how long it's going to last. So we accelerated, if you will, all of the lab training that we could, knowing that, or at least suspecting at some point, we were going to be told to vacate. And so when that came, we really weren't in a bad situation for this fall because we had concentrated already on all of the lab work that the students needed. And and so we did okay. But now going into winter, and I've had Zoom meetings today and yesterday and the day before, we're not sure when we're going to be allowed to start class, even though it's in the catalog and it's on the books right now to start the first week of January, face to face. Delta as a college adopted, I should say, back in the spring semester, any class that can be taught online will be taught online, which means all of the Englishes, math, government classes, all that sort of stuff is on there. But as we all know, hands-on with machining and welding and automotive repair, those things really beg to be hands-on. So we are struggling right now with when are we going to be allowed to have students on campus to do those in the winter? Do we delay start and hope that the vaccine arrives and there's some semblance of normal returns to our lives? How do we do that? And I know you guys talked about Tooling U. Terry Morris already uses that, although I don't believe we use it in any other program other than machining. So that's kind of interesting to me that you use it in hydraulics and pneumatics and the electrical classes. So I'll have to look into that. So I'm glad I was here today. But other than that, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what the future is going to bring. And it is tough teaching students hands-on. I do know, because of the apprenticeship side of what I do, the companies still want apprentices, but they want them in face-to-face hands-on classes. And I've got a couple employers that have contacted me and said, you know what? We're just going to keep our apprentices in the factory. We're going to keep them working until you figure out how you're going to teach them face to face and keep them safe.
Yeah, we've had, we've actually minimized. Mr. Kurtner kind of he also leads our apprenticeship program too. And, we basically minimized because we had to cut our class numbers, but so students went from taking 2 classes a semester down to 1. We also had situations where I've talked to companies that didn't want to send students here because they didn't want them potentially over, with the extra exposure. because if they come back to their company, if they get exposed outside of their workplace, then you could potentially shut your workplace down. And so anyway, we've seen a lot of that. So Mark, what are you guys doing at Mott?
Well, we were very lucky this semester. I started on the 3rd of August, and so I jumped right into the deep end on this, trying to coordinate an awful lot of problems. But I think we were very lucky because our enrollment stayed just right up about between 75 and 80%, and we were on the campus until the 20th of November. So we were able to, and we front loaded all our labs as much as we could, anticipating we might get hooked off. And of course we did. So I was able to have courses that in my CAD, they finished up on the 20th, electronics finished up on the 20th, automotive finished up on the 20th, but my HVAC and R, they still have about 1 or 2 days they still need on campus. Welding still needs about 3 or 4 days. Machining finished up, we were lucky. So we got off pretty easy, but let me tell you, a lot of what I've heard here today, I see that we're in a common misery. And some of the things that have come out of this, especially what Kevin said, is that, my faculty adapted very well, and they broke their lessons down into smaller chunks because, really, after about 20 minutes online, you lost your students. They've got to be able to get their hands on and practice. Yeah, that's it. 20 minutes, that's it. And let me tell you, I was invited this summer to do 2 online seminars for colleagues that teach at technical university in India. And their big question is, how do we adapt to online? And everything you've said here today is what I told them. The old rules are gone. You're going to have to adapt to new rules. You're going to have shorter chunks of information. And it was interesting to me. It was like the light went on. Somebody snapped a finger and turned on a light or whatever. And they said, wow, we were sitting in front of the computer trying to teach these people online for like an hour and a half straight. I said, never going to work. Never. You've lost them. It's Snortsville. The one thing we are struggling with right now is that we have very low pre-enrollment for next semester. And when we have polled our students about why aren't you starting to register for the next semester, they said, we are totally burned out being online. We just can't take any more online for a while. So we're hoping that we're going to come back in January with labs and be on the campus, but we're not holding out much hope, to tell you the honest truth. We're not. Other than that, I really have nothing new to add because I think all my colleagues here have detailed exactly what we're all going through together. The one advantage that I really see out of all of this is that when we do get back to a more normal situation where we're on the campus in the labs, all those videos that you people have made are going to become a tremendous archive of information for students to use in the future. They really are. And I think that's a great advantage. So that's it.
Yeah, no, thanks, Mark.
Hey, Ken, can I show you what we did in the last couple of days? We've been able to go into lab. I don't know if you can see that, but we fabricated a booth, if you can see it.
Yeah.
And it, we kind of it's got glass, plexiglass on the front. We try to keep the instructors safe, and then demonstrate, and then kind of let them go on their own out into the lab. We tried to separate them, but then November 20th came around, and that ended everything,
Yeah,
So-
I know it means not little, but I know one of the things that they're really pushing for with the lobbyists is, because healthcare and CJ was allowed to stick around. So they're really pushing for the manufacturing as well to hopefully be able to come back. Fortunately, I think we're in good shape too. Our welding and machining manufacturing faculty really hit it hard in terms of getting their work done. But I only have, for myself, 2 full-time faculty in that area, and they can really control a lot more of what's going on. The dilemma is where we have adjuncts that aren't, and so they a lot of them didn't get their labs done to where they need to go. And we just Mr. Crittner built a new electronics lab, and I don't know if they got to use it at all. And so that was one of the things that really kind of, they didn't get a chance to front load. So those are kind of the issues that we've seen from there. Jolene, did you have anything to add?
I do not have anything to add. Bo's kind of said it all. I was going to bring that up about petitioning to the legislators to get skilled trades included in that. We don't yet have an answer. I'm inclined to see what happens with the next executive order. And if it doesn't look like we'll be able to go back, I'm inclined to not have nearly as many classes on the schedule for winter as we do now. I don't want to get into a situation where that we did last time. So no, we're just kind of taking a wait and see approach. Bo has been probably one of the most flexible instructors that we have, trying new things and getting students in and out as best he can using Tooling U. So, but it's just we're in this crappy situation together and doing the best we can with what we have. I like the country doctor approach.
Yeah, that's for sure. And hi, Michelle. It's nice to see you again.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
And Larry Fucarelli.
How are you?
So let's talk about that. So I'd like to get some feedback. Okay, so you've seen, again, it's been obviously we've had to move in a certain direction. Are there things that now that you look back on now that, you know what, this has made things better this way? I probably won't go back on some of these things. So Bo, can you speak to that? How this has kind of helped you kind of organize and do things differently?
Oh, absolutely. The videos, I think the videos have really changed the game for me in the way that, sorry, my kids are going crazy in the background. It's really changed the way that I'm approaching things, how you lecture, how you don't lecture. And I really, in talking to some of the other guys that I teach with in the different realms that have been doing this forever, it's really opened their eyes to what they've been doing or not doing over the last however many years too, and how things are changing for the younger crowd, how the YouTube generation, they can go on and they get it, they understand all that stuff, they can pick all that stuff up, and that's really, the videos is really what's changing it for me. And then also the way that you teach things, how you kind of like what Kevin was saying with how in depth certain things are and how much they're not in depth when you start looking around for different things, like he was saying with the garage people and things like that. I really struggle myself trying to find things like that, and it's really put an onus on me to make things for myself and really get to understand that the technology aspect of it and how to use that to our advantage. So I don't know if that completely answers what you were going for.
Oh yeah, I mean it basically, right, like you said, what you've been able to do is create an archive for yourself to one, because it's that will save you time in the future for having, you have students that miss a day. Hey, I've got videos that explain everything that you're doing that you need to review.
Well, and one of the things that we started talking about too here at the college is the high flex model, which of teaching, so hybrid and being flexible and all that kind of stuff. So really, I had I forget what he is. Jolene can help me out with Sean Dry. I don't know what his technical name is right now, but he took a look at what I was doing, and I have like a high flex model. So essentially what that means is that I'm using the same stuff when we are face-to-face as I do when we are remote. So it's offered in the same format. So when we do quizzes, I put all of my quizzes now are online. If we're sitting face-to-face, then I have them log into the computer and they do it while we are in class. If we're in remote, I just give them a time frame when they have to take it, and they take it. But regardless of format, they're always taking that quiz or test or whatever online. So I really personally have embraced that. It gives the students a little bit of flexibility too. So if we say, hey, you need to take this quiz, you got to take it sometime today. I don't care what time you take it today, but you have to take it today. But that alleviates that half an hour or whatever it would take them to take it in class. They could use that half hour in the lab session. So, sure. And I did the same thing as a lot of what you guys said, is I front loaded lab pretty hard. And that's what those videos, when I made those videos back in March and April, that's really what allowed me to get into those labs a lot faster and allow people to move quicker is because they were able to just go online and look at it and work at their own speed. So even though I'm only talking about G1, 2s, and 3s for CNC, they're already moving on and they've already grasped that concept and they're working in drill cycles or whatever, you know. So they've moved on. They're able to move ahead. So they have their print in front of them, you know. So I'm on day 2. This is what I'm talking about, but they're already at day 4 or 5. So I've got some that are well versed in going through what I have and getting ahead. So. And others that are not, to be totally honest. So,
Sure.
you know, there's always those that, hey, did you watch that video? I didn't know there was video. Come on, man, you're killing me.
Yeah.
There's videos everywhere. Every session, I got a whole section on there. I've shown you in class 50 times. I pull it up in class sometimes and we look at it just so you guys know what you're looking at.
I've heard a lot of that today.
Yeah. Some of that stuff is frustrating. I had a kid, this is no joke. I had a kid yesterday. See, I didn't even know there was a book for the class. Are you serious? Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my God. So yeah, no wonder you didn't understand pretty much anything that I was talking about.
Right.
You know?
So I know, Larry, from your point of view, it's been tough to do any of your hands-on stuff, but if you pull anything from this where you might have been helpful or not so much, and what is there any silver lining for you that's happened through any of this?
I don't know. I guess you could probably set up something where you could do your lectures maybe online and prep. This is what I'm thinking is, you know, even before a class starts or something, they could get online, maybe go over equipment, safety, you know, you can cut some fat out of that. I'm sure you can come up with some kind of video and, you know, kind of prep them for the lab. I mean, but you can't replace the lab time, unfortunately. That's the drawback.
Right.
How much fat can you cut out of it? You know, I mean, and I know I think it was Mark that said that you got to do what you got to do, and I agree with him. I mean, it's been a bumpy road. But I do see things where I can get out of it as far as maybe making something where maybe they come into lecture. You don't lecture in the lab. You go right to work. How's that? You know, I mean, really. And what about lab fees? Are the students still getting charged for lab fees? I don't know. Michelle might know. I don't, you know. That's another thing. So you mean you're going to go to the lab and then charge them $125 or whatever? And they haven't used any metal.
You know, I could potentially see us, you know, for going into the spring semester, the potential of needing to do all the labs on the back end, much like we did the front end for the fall. So I could potentially see that happening for sure. So Kevin, what kind of things do you think that you'll carry forward from this?
Well, I was going to speak to Larry too. What Nathan did for welding is he just do setup videos. How do you particularly set up this particular type of welder to do this particular operation? So instead of him having to explain it to 5 times, and we've all had that student, you just get to your second time, and what is the old rule? 3 strikes, you're out. Yeah, I got to tell you 3 times. I'm just going to tell you to leave because I don't have time for you if you're working at a shop. So that could be a potential avenue for something that you could do with your class, Larry, is for setup type stuff. But then here's something I didn't hear it in the last meeting, and I'm going to mention it in this one. We save films and we save videos, and this is just something I used to joke with my high school students when I had them. Films are educational, videos are for enjoyment. You got to learn how to watch these videos or films, because it doesn't matter for what, as an educational tool. And all you got to do is there's a difference between watching something just for just for entertainment purpose, because how many people just throw up a YouTube video just to watch something dumb versus actually watching one of our instructional videos to learn something from. So that's something, instead of you having to explain it to them 3 times, go back and watch the video, go back and watch the video. It's in the video. And then that's a new skill set that I think that our students are going to start picking up. And that's going to be also a skill set with us building our videos to where you want to make sure you've covered every single step that you want them to go through. I know I'm on autopilot half the time when I'm in class because I've explained it so many times. I don't want to tell you how many times I've explained certain things because you just get tired of it. But when you do your video, you want to do the exact same thing. But then when the students watch it, they have to watch it meticulously to pick up those points. I know it's a curse. Those of us that can watch something online when somebody does it, those garage shop people or whatever, I'll watch them do it. I don't even have to watch the whole thing. Okay, I see what you need to do. Boom, I'll go do it. I did it with a chainsaw this weekend. How do I tear that top end apart? Okay, that's all I needed to see was this one trick. But we're watching stuff differently now than we did a year ago from now. We're watching it to learn stuff versus actually watching it for enjoyment. So that's something I've been stressing to our students a little bit more. Start watching it to learn it, not to watch it for me to entertain you. Because yes, we all interject our stupid little things to hopefully keep them online. Because what mine is, this episode, I start out my videos stupid just to try to get them entertained a little bit, but they have to watch it to learn from it. So that's probably one of the big things that I see, Ken. But well, and it is, the more videos I make, the more I use them. It's just making my job easier, which I never anticipated, but this just put the fire to my feet to actually make it happen.
And I think one of the instructors in the last meeting earlier today talked about one of the things that's really helped his teaching, because in watching in the videos that he makes, it's like, wow, is that how I say that? Is that, and then so it helps him, his production of his videos as well, because all of a sudden he's thinking a lot more of what he's saying, how he's saying it, how he's kind of relating to the students. And so it's really strengthened, think about this, make 10 videos of yourself doing something and then watch them. And you really become your own best self-critic on that. My wife forever is like, wow, you say a lot. I don't feel like I do, but apparently I do. The boss says I do. And so that's kind of where I'm at. So Bo, you gotta.
I was gonna say something that we share a parapro between machining and robotics, and one of the things that he and I have been talking about was taking some of those videos and linking them with a QR code and putting a QR code on each individual machine. So when they get to, hey, how do I do threading again? They can just pop open their phone, hit that QR, and it pops open the video that they need, so they can look at it. So we would just have a list on the machine of, hey, if I want to do single point threading on the manual lathe, I can pull this up, and now I have my video. So that's something that we haven't done it yet, but it's something that he and I have been talking about over the last probably a month and a half. It just kind of got put on the back burner while we were face to face, but it's now coming back to bite us a little bit. But this is now the time to do it when we are not face to face, I guess. So but that's something that I think can be done even in robotics or in welding or anything like that, where, hey, I got to do a vertical up weld. How do I set this thing up? How do I figure out my amperages? How do I figure out all this stuff, right? And it can be simple as that, instead of going booth to booth, or in my case, machine to machine, and showing 6 different people the same thing 6 times. They can hit that QR code because it's right there, and they can watch it, and they don't have to wait for me. They would just have to get me when they have some other bigger issue that they can figure out.
Yeah, that's a pretty neat idea. I haven't heard that yet.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty easy. You can get a QR code maker. We've already done that part of the research and finding finding that, and it's just for us to figure out how we're going to link it. And I think we're going to have to, because a lot of my videos are not on YouTube. I think what we're going to have to do is make them I'll have to start a channel and put it on YouTube, and link it that way, because I haven't messed with our D2L and how it's going, if it would link to that, and if it would do it correctly. I'm not sure, but I think I can do it with a YouTube video.
Yeah, we have a couple of faculty members that have their own YouTube channel that post other videos on YouTube, because that way you don't necessarily have to be a student to what, that you don't have to be in the system, so they're, sometimes students can't always access our LMS, so they can access YouTube.
Sure.
And so, that's one of the things that some faculty have done. And so, but, again, there's all these different software connections that we're all learning. I mean, Kevin brought up, what was Splashtop?
Pardon?
What was the splash top?
Oh,
Today.
that was in the, wait a minute, I gotta flip back on my notes because that's about 4 pages ago. The software thing that they said that you could potentially use, that I don't want to say hacks in, but that's what it sounds like. It hacks into the school's computer. Come on, fingers. It was, yeah, Splash Top. They were talking about that to potentially be able to log in on the computers at the school to be able to use the software.
Yeah.
Which I never heard about it. Ken, you said you just found out about it too, but it's something that could potentially work for students to use their home computers to log into their computer at the school in order to use the specialized softwares that we have. So they don't have to, and it is, hopefully they don't have to have a powerful computer, because that was the situation we ran into for our engineering CAD classes. Students just can't afford a $1,200 laptop computer to drive the free software. We can get the software for free. It's just getting them the computer is the tough spot. And that's some of the other situations that we ran across with. Students were doing great. It's just they had individual software things that they had to do. We just got cut short. That's just it. It wasn't that we didn't do anything wrong. And that's what I brought up in our other meeting. How many of them had COVID situations? How many of them took care of it? And from my mechatronics group that came across, they had only a couple of them had COVID things. They caught it. They went back for tracing, and nobody else caught it from their place, which was good. And then that's hopefully that's something they can take to Lansing and ask them, hey, look, if they're doing the same things that they're doing in other buildings, they're safe. Let them be open so we can continue to train, but that's out of our hands.
Yeah, I brought that up because Michelle asked a question in chat about software, but just yesterday at the MODAC meeting, one of the deans said, well, hey, we purchased a software called Splash Top, and what allows a student to do is log in from the outside to a computer at the college to do SolidWorks or Mastercam or other kind of softwares that school is doing. So I think this was Don Hutchison at Macomb. I think LCC said they had it. Mark, you're nodding your head.
Yeah, we have VDI and it does
Okay.
the same thing.
Okay. So again, it's if you haven't heard of it, I'd never heard of it before, but you are able to log in. So in from the outside, so you don't have to use a college's equipment, I think, or even have the software on your computer. So that's another option. Michelle asked a question about the software. What other softwares are you finding helpful, or are you using to kind of get you through some of this, or a standard you'd be using it regardless?
I use a lot of PowerPoint too, and then I'll do voiceover over it. It's been a good little tool as well. So just something that we've all probably used, but figuring out how to put that voiceover on there too helps, because then you can explain, because you're not supposed to put a million words on a PowerPoint. So sometimes you talking over it really, my students love it. I've gotten good reviews. They may not care about my voice necessarily, but just me talking through it is a help.
You bet. I think that's great. And also, you probably know that you can export PowerPoints as videos, and you don't go in and save. Just go in and export it it comes out as a Word Windows movie file, I think, or an MP4. I can't remember right off the top of my head. But then you can just upload that right to YouTube also.
Yeah. Yep.
But Kevin alluded to it today, and another instructor alluded it tomorrow. That voice is comforting to students to hear that instructor's voice. So when that student standing at we had this with a lot of, we were buying new technology for a couple of our campuses, and the several faculty were asking for these cameras that remote to follow them around. It's like, you don't need to be on camera all the time. This isn't her performance. It's the material that you're talking about. Okay, that's kind of what, we can't really swing those fancy computers. And so, I mean, when Kevin showcased doing things on a simple the
Document cam.
I mean, that those things are pretty inexpensive. And he not only did put it out at the machine, he also programmed, Mastercam. It copied what he was doing in that software, so he could do presentations there. So again, PowerPoint with a voiceover is a wonderful way to go, because what can they get from actually watching a PowerPoint that doesn't have it? I mean, they're just reading those words. So I think that's a wonderful, wonderful tool. What about one of the things that, that Mr. Krittner purchased was a GoPro. What other equipment are people looking at to kind of help them through this, or are there additional equipment needs, or that you've used that you've found successful? Last, like the welding instructors, like, hey, we bought the masks that have the HEPA filters, and we've, so there's tools that people have purchased, or that help them with their safety. Or Mr. Krittner bought paint sprayers to spray bleach on equipment, so cleaning. So what are the things that people have done that kind of help with this?
I'm in the process right now of so I had a tool crib that everybody would go into, and they, if they needed drill bits, they would go to where the drill bits are, get their drill bits that they needed, taps, whatever they needed, and then they would go back out into the shop. And we figured out that with tracing and all this kind of stuff, we can't do that. You don't want all these different hands in one spot. So we've actually moved things out. I did the old school method where take a block of wood, drill it, and put the tools in that they need. I've done that. Now we're actually not removing the tool crib, but we're taking some of those tools and putting them out into the shop in tool boxes that they can use. And then in between every single time they have to wipe them down. So when they're done with them, they wipe them down. Some of them will wipe them down beginning, middle, and end, because they want to be clean. That's fine. If you want to do that, go ahead. But that's something that we've done to try to alleviate people moving around, and try to make sure that we could stay on campus as best we can. Because if we would have had, like probably any of you guys, you have 1 or 2 students get in there, well, we may all have to go away. Well, if I am in that room with them and I was exposed to it, well, that just shut down every single class that gets offered. So, then everything's shut down for 2 weeks. So we've been looking at things like that, not necessarily softwares, going back to that QR code, stuff like that kind of thing that keeps me away from the student as well. And the videos keep me away from that student as well. So we can maintain our social distancing, and we can do that kind of stuff. But that's kind of where we are.
Larry, anything? Have you looked at any potential equipment or any equipment in particular that you're looking for in the future?
We looked at some of those high-end respirators, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Some of them are, they're $1,500. And other respirators, maybe for the students, the 100s, I think they're called. But then once again, those are $50 a pop. Without the filter. I mean, you got to get replacement filters. If the students want to use them, or are you going to offer them for free? I don't know. It's, and like anything else, what is this virus going to go away? You want to put a lot of time and energy to something that's going to be around. Like you said, they got a shot coming out, virus shot. So who knows?
Right.
We did put a lot of our classes off. I'm teaching at the latter part of the spring. I'm hoping that maybe I can get a shot, and then I can go back into the lab and continue teaching.
Sure.
Instructing.
Anything for Mr. Krittner? Any additional equipment?
We, like Ken said, we got an airless sprayer, and we mix a bleach solution in it, because you can find that recipe right online from the government. And it's heck on machines, but I tell you what, it's just one of those added measures that I would do. Every student would log which machine, because it's impossible. There's so many different tools and touch points in a machining and welding facility. It's next to impossible to wipe down everything, but we'd have them wipe down their main touch points. Then at the end of the class, I'd find out what they were on, and I'd mist every single machine with that bleach solution to kind of help. So that way we did that part of it, and it's having them normal signing. But something else that we did, because there's so many different hand tools. Every hour in class, we'd have them go over and wash their hands. It just started to become a routine. Hey, go wash your hands, go wash your hands. Hey, it's bottom of the hour or whatever, go wash your hands type stuff for the students. So they started getting into a routine for that part of it. But something that will probably keep, and for me, it helps a lot, because I used to get fired up when somebody wouldn't clean their machine, but I'm still going to have the students log what machines they were on. That way, when they don't clean it, oh yeah, I can come back and give somebody a butt chewing that needs a butt chewing that didn't clean their machine after the fact. So that's a little I don't know, something. I always thought it was childish because that was stuff that I used to do at the high school, but now it's been actually kind of nice that the students track and I don't have to have that memory to maintain where everyone's at. And I'm just going to push the COVID card, hopefully until I can retire and say, hey, we just got to keep tracing. Just got to keep tracing where everybody's at, just in case. You never know who's got the germs on them. So that's kind of the extra stuff. But it's in, and it is, our building's kind of unique because all the labs are tied together. So the welding, the machine or CNC machine tool, electronics, hydraulics, pneumatics, and robotics. So it's just we kind of get everybody on the same page, moving together. And the policing's been a tough part, but we've had a good group of students. You only got to holler at them a couple of times.
One of the things that we talked about this morning too, and I'd kind of like to get from the group is how are things looking from a recruiting standpoint? What are you hearing from students? What are you seeing for this, upcoming semester? What do your numbers look like, and what are your concerns there? So, Larry, what do you think?
Well, our numbers aren't up a whole lot. And did we really prep them for a job for hands-on? No, to be honest with you. I mean, we've been in the lab twice, maybe 3 times, and that's just not enough time. I don't want to be the naysayer, but it's just reality.
Sure.
Maybe we can make it up on the back end, maybe in the spring, have them come into an additional classes or something. And I do that anyways. I open up my classes and anybody wants to come in, as long as they're not disruptive, they can come in and use the machinery and I'll help them out. Sure. I mean, it's just, it is what it is.
Yeah, we do that.
I kind of agree with Mark. You just gotta make do with, put your best foot forward and,
Well, how's things looking for you guys?
So we maintained, if you will. So I actually, Jolie mentioned it earlier, we've been talking about knocking off some of the classes for this next semester because I would hate to run some classes because I had 4 classes in March that we had to give everybody incompletes in. And they had to come back during the summertime, go through open lab sessions, and I have to be there for those open lab sessions, right? Because I have a parapro, but he's not a machine. He's actually a robotics guy. He's not even really a machining guy. So he's just a set of eyes to make sure somebody's there and they're being safe-ish. So it's kind of up to me. So I had to be there for all of those too. So I actually did a lot. What Larry did is, if I have a class. So our max is at 12 people, something like that. So if I have a class of 8, I put up I did a, what's it called? A sign up genius. I did a sign up genius and it just rolled over week to week during those class periods where I had some room. So if I had 3, I had a spot for 3, I'd allow 3 more people to come in, and you'd be surprised. Every single time I had that class, those 3 spots were filled every single time. These guys were coming back and doing it. So, Sign Up Genius was another one for me. Plus, it gave me a way to, and when we did open labs, and we're going to continue to do this too, I think, is continue to use Sign Up Genius because then it can track exactly who was there and who wasn't. So it's a CYA thing too, but we initially did it just so we had a tracking or a way to track who was there, just in case somebody came in with COVID or something like that, we knew exactly who was there and they weren't just showing up. So as far as numbers go for classes, all but 1 or 2 classes we had to reduce all of our numbers, but all but 1 or 2 classes filled up this semester. I'm praying that hope happens again. But our classes tend to be the ones that suffer a little bit when we can't get into the labs. Mm-hmm. So, because people don't want to sign up for a lab if they don't know they can be in there. So that's the tough part. Because I've talked to a few other schools where they're like, well, we signed them up, but we cut the class in half. So this week, this half gets to be in here. And then next week, the other half gets to be in here. Well, that kind of sucks because I paid for a class for all of that lab experience, not half of it.
Sure.
I agree.
And that's I've had that conversation with students, and they know it's not my fault, but I had that conversation with students just to try to try to help make them feel a little bit better, and also try to keep them coming, right? Because we don't want to alienate them and make them not want to ever come back. So we keep it. We try to. Or I try to alleviate some of that negativity. So.
No, that's great, Kevin.
It's kind of the same thing. We reduced our numbers. The numbers are looking good, but then right now we're getting more emails, more calls, more everything. If we're going to have face-to-face, and it's just always tough for us to be in this position because I don't have an answer. We played this game in the spring term. Everybody went through it. Hey, potentially come back in 2 weeks. Then they stretch another 2 weeks, stretch another 2 weeks. And then pretty soon all those turned into incompletes. And the same thing as Bo. I was here all summer tending to people trying to get them. I still have some now that are still trying to get their incompletes finished up because it's just chipping away at it. So that's the hard part there for recruitment part of it. And a lot of people, they don't want to spend the money. They don't want to spend the money if they're not going to do the face-to-face part.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the hardest part.
Problem. Yeah.
So
You see it, same thing, Mark?
Same thing. We're at about 55% enrollment where we were a year ago. Way too low. But students, same thing. They don't want to come back if they're not going to get the time that, they can be guaranteed, and they're just too afraid of that. Really, money is not the big issue with an awful lot of our students, which generally, we're always concerned about. But here's the thing also, we give too many incompletes. Student gets too many incompletes on their transcript. It's starting to affect their FAFSA. And then they're really out of money. And, and that's such a dangerous thing. I mean, we're just kind of holding our breath at Mott, just hoping that we get back in January. And the one thing we have found that is really working is that when we call students personally and say to them, look, we see you haven't registered yet. Is there any assistance we could give you? The students have all responded very positively that they say, wow, you're really calling me? You really want us to come back? Say, yeah, we're really concerned to keep you on track towards graduation. And that we have seen that has helped boost our numbers a little bit. It's a lot of work for our people, but showing our concern for our students really seems to be paying off.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, that's for sure. I know we've seen the same thing. I know we're down. Go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, I got a suggestion, but I don't know how some people feel. But we do some fast track courses, and I think maybe these colleges need to think about pushing back or doubling or backing themselves up, if you can say. So let's say latter part of spring, you double up and you make 2 classes out of 1. They might have to be there a little longer. I mean, who knows about this virus? You just back yourself up, and who knows, maybe trickle it into summer a little bit.
Larry, I agree with you 100%. And I've approached my faculty on that and said, look, let's see if we can be in for 8-week intensive course and get right through this and everything else. But I'm not getting any takers from my faculty.
Oh, see, it's not good because if you're offered 6 weeks or 7 weeks, let's say, you start your course. Okay, they come out with the shot. I mean, instructors got it, and you're good.
That's right.
And then you're loaded. You're ready to go. Your program's going to take off. And then when summer rolls around, you double up again. You get your ready for fall. You get all your 101s out of the way, and you reload.
I agree.
I've been doing the accelerated classes now for 6 years. So, but long before COVID, obviously, and it's tremendous. It's tremendous for getting students through that class in 7.5 weeks. First of all, second of all, their retention, their knowledge retention is there because they're there twice a week instead of once a week. So it's a much better scenario for them. It really is. And like Kevin, I taught high school for 10 years. So it's the same thing. You see these kids every day. They remember that stuff. You see them every day. They remember it. Well, at the college level, they have it once a week. They come in, and by the time that week is over, they've had.
I agree. I agree with you.
Absolutely. Years ago, when I was teaching CNC, I saw those kids for like 2.5 hours twice a week. And by the time they came back after the weekend, they'd forgotten everything. Yeah. And I put it into a block on Saturdays, and those kids whizzed right through it and got out.
Yeah. Yeah.
See,
I,
you
I
gotta
taught
look at
at,
the,
I taught at Monroe too, and it wasn't uncommon to do 6-7 hours on a Saturday.
Mhm.
That's a long day.
Yeah.
it's just there's a bigger picture than that too, because everybody here has been full time. Because I look at it as a scheduling situation, because it is. I set up the scheduling here. You got to look at the scheduling. You got to look at, do you have enough time slots? Do you have enough instructors? Part-time instructors can't double up because most of them are just lucky to do 1 time a week. So
Right.
that's the dilemma that we would have at our colleges because we've looked at all those scenarios. It's just there aren't enough days and classrooms and lab space to actually try and do that stuff down here and keep moving forward. So that was one of the reasons why we had a little pushback on that part of it. So that's the other side of the coin that I'm always looking at is who can we get to fill them slots if we did double stuff up like that. And it's great. Hey, I get paid after 7 weeks versus 14 and I'm all done with it. But it's just tough, especially if you have a person teaching 2 nights a week. Now you're going to expect them to be here 4 nights a week. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Their wife's going to divorce them.
Here's the thing, Kevin, it's not an all or nothing proposition. It's not going to work for every class. I mean, when I was chair down in Indianapolis, I had computer graphics classes. It didn't work for all of them, but it worked for about 3/4 of them. And even if it only worked for 1/3 of our students, there's 1/3 of our students that we don't have to worry about anymore. They're moving forward. So, you just have to adapt it to your situation. I agree.
Yeah.
And I did, and most of my 7.5 weekers are daytime classes. I don't have any of those in the evenings really. I keep all my 1 night a weekers at night. I do, and then the daytime stuff, almost all of it is twice a week, 7.5 week classes.
How many of your daytimers are high schoolers or dual enrolled or whatever you want to call them?
15-20%.
Okay.
So somewhere in that range. Some of the classes maybe a little higher than that. My intro classes are probably 30% high school kids, but after that it drops off.
Because it's easier to do it like that with the high school students versus most of ours are nighttime classes. That's the scheduling dilemma.
Yep. Yeah, and that's what I figured out, and luckily the my deans that I've had over the last 5 years, they bought into trying to fast track it and trying to get people through, because if they're a 1 night a week kid, chances are it's going to take them 4 or 5 years before they are a completer. So by doing it that way, they're a completer they can be a completer in 2 years. Mm-hmm. So and it's accelerated everything, and it has helped.
Yeah, we've always managed our apprentices to take 2 nights a week just for that same reason. That way they can get finished, and then we set them up to do it that way. So one of the things I wanted to give time for a little bit of open discussion and I didn't tell you this at the beginning, but I did record this session. So I always like to say that beforehand, just so if other people wanted to see what we're, just kind of talk about some of the things. I will also send out the notes and everything, just about some of the things that you talked about, because one of the reason why we wanted to do this is because we don't get a chance to see each other as colleagues across the state and talk to our different partners that we have that teach the same things that we do, to hear from them. So I also want to make sure that we are able to connect each other as a resource beyond just this one-time meeting today, because I want to do this more often. I think it's really, really important and valuable. But what other kind of topics or other things that you're looking to talk about today that we didn't? Yeah, if it's nothing, that's okay too. So we've been here for a good spell. The one thing I
got something, Ken.
Yeah.
It's just we go to meetings all the time, and then if there's no agenda, nothing like that, and we invite people, they don't know what's going on. That's always very frustrating. It's just if we did another one, it is maybe bring a best practice, bring something like that to the table. Hey, plan on, and it doesn't have to be a full lesson. What is something that you're doing in class that you think's phenomenal? I always thought this would be a great grad assignment for stuff, and me and Ken have talked about this before, where you could start and even in our own community college, what best practices are being done in your school that someone else could take and relate? I said earlier, a good teacher steals from another teacher. I see stuff that somebody does great, I'm going to rob it from them. So maybe if we did a meeting, it could just be, hey, roundtable discussion. What's something you're doing in your class that you think's phenomenal? That QR code thing, I think that's pretty top notch. It's just for us, it's finding the resources, the people, and the time to actually put it together, because we're pretty much a two-man show here in an entire building, and it's just tough for one man. And I got me for machine tool, and I have one guy for welding, and then that's it. Everybody else is adjunct in every other area.
Yeah.
Plus I expect 80 hours minimum.
I know. Gonna put me in a grave.
You guys, don't you know in higher ed that when you get to be a professor, you only have to work half a day?
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it doesn't matter which 12 hours it is.
You're right.
But one of the things that you were leading me into, Kevin, in terms of best practices, we are, and this is kind of a different note, but I will push to try to have us as a group, in terms of technology, folks get together more often than just once a year. This kind of extended from a trends conference conversation, but we are planning on, I'll send you the information after the meeting, February 19th and February 26th, couple different 2.5 days of having a conference and talking about putting forward best practices. And so if there is somebody part of this group that would like to present what they're doing, how they've kind of gotten through this pandemic, some of the best practices, I'm going to send a call for presenters saying to this group, certainly by all means, fill that out. I know that, just from listening today, and seeing what people, there's a lot of things that people are doing that could be easily shared with the rest of the faculty across the state that they can learn and grow from. And so I'll send that out to the group. So.
Yeah, I've always been one too. I like the roundtables and benchmarking and all that kind of stuff. I like all that. And one of the things that I personally always like is when somebody brings like a project. Here's a project that I do. Well, good for you, but why do you use it? And explain what, it's cool. You make a plumb bob. Well, why? Why am I making a plumb bob? Right? I do this. Okay, well, cool. So I think if I was asked to do that, that's how I would approach it. Is I would bring a project here. Here's a project that I do, and this is why I do it, and this is how in depth we get in with it. And I guess that's how if it was if I'm involved with that, that's kind of how I would do it. Yeah,
and I will tell you, I've sat next to Mr. Crittner in a lot of meetings and have people bring canned projects and where they couldn't explain really. They're just doing it to gain interest from students. It looks like a cool project, but what are they truly learning? I mean, Mr. Crittner will just get up and walk away.
Yeah.
So those are the same kind of things that, to get him involved in that and do that, that's exactly what he would want to see.
Yeah. I'm a big why guy too, Kevin.
Yeah. Yeah. He holds me to the fire if I waste his time. That's for sure. So, well, thank you. Hey, I just want to thank all of you for your time today. I will look to do this again for the future. I think it's very valuable. And then I'll send out some notes and what they'll kind of be highlighted to some of the things that we talked about, GoPro software that we use and kind of that way, that resource. So you can feel free to reach out to your colleagues and ask them, hey, when you did this video, what did you do here? We can just kind of keep moving forward. And I'll send the trends information out as well. So, yeah, thank you all and have a great day. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too, Ken.
Thank you.
Good meeting.
Great to meet you.
Yes, good meeting.
You bet. All right. Bye.